we are going to jump in here and take you live now to Richmond, BC, where we're hearing from Conservative Leader Pierre Poilievre.
Who are ready to give Canadians an affordable, safe life back in our country. And as you know, this election is about change. After the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime and a falling economy, the debate is whether we want a fourth Liberal term or whether it's time for a change with a new Conservative government that will provide you with affordable homes and food on safe streets. That's the change we need, and that's the change we're going to deliver. Canadians are now voting, but we now know that life will get even more expensive if the Liberals get that fourth term. After the lost Liberal decade, Mark Carney launched his platform today promising $130 billion in new inflationary spending that will drive up taxes, food, and housing costs. Amazingly, Mr. Carney plans to run even bigger inflationary deficits than Justin Trudeau had already budgeted. Together, the previously budgeted Trudeau deficits, combined with the new spending Mr. Carney announced today, will mean $250 billion of new inflationary debt added on the backs of Canadians in a fourth Liberal term. This inflationary spending means higher taxes and higher costs of living and a weaker dollar. You cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. You need change so you can afford food and housing and live on a safe street again with a new Conservative government. Bloomberg reports that Mr. Carney has even gone beyond Justin Trudeau, abandoning even the weak fiscal guideposts, and Bloomberg is now predicting worsening fiscal position if the Liberals are re-elected to a fourth term. One Carney-friendly economist on Twitter said that this Liberal platform is a, quote, spendorama with even bigger deficits than Freeland's that just go on forever. And he said, I was hoping, and I'm quoting here, I was hoping, this is from a Liberal commentator, I was hoping Carney would pull the Liberals back to the centre with a focus on fiscal discipline. It's not to be. That's a fancy way of saying that Mark Carney's Liberals are even more costly than Justin Trudeau's Liberals. And they're all the same Liberals, the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal advisors, same Liberal promises, same costly Liberal failures. It's a shocking plan, but it shouldn't come as a surprise because it is consistent with Mark Carney's record. Everywhere he goes, his advice leads to more money printing and debt. And what follows? More inflation and more pain for working people and seniors. In December of 2020, Mr. Carney was asked if he was worried about that deficits and money printing would cause inflation. Even after he promoted those policies, his answer was that inflation was, quote, unlikely to materialize to a serious extent. Less than 6 months later, inflation skyrocketed. And when it did, Mr. Carney changed his tune and said that inflation was, quote, a good scenario and a sign that the economy was moving forward. As governor of the Bank of England, he overshot the inflation target 5 of 8 years. And he was blamed for leaving the UK with 11% inflation, among the worst in the G7. He also triggered a housing crisis in that country just before he came back to Canada to act as Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Now, no wonder the UK press said Mark Carney had the reverse Midas touch. And today, he's back at it again, promising hundreds of billions of dollars in more government spending and inflationary deficits to pay for it, just as he advised Trudeau to do over the last 5 years. He'll have to print even more money. That means more inflation, higher home prices, higher grocery bills, and higher gas prices. We need a change. We need a new Conservative government that will bring spending back under control by cutting wasteful handouts to consultants, lobbyists, corporate insiders, and others. That will scale back the bureaucracy and cap spending with a dollar-for-dollar law, requiring we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. Instead of creating more cash, we need to create more of what cash buys. We will cut taxes so you keep more of what you earn and kill inflation so the dollars that you earn go further. Après les décennies perdues des libéraux,
After the lost Liberal decade, today Mark Carney promised $130 billion in spending. After the lost Liberal decade, in his electoral platform, Mark Carney promised $130 billion in new inflationary spending. This will drive up costs and inflation, taxes, the cost of groceries and food. Incredibly, he is expecting even higher deficits than those already projected in Justin Trudeau's budget. This means higher taxes, a more expensive cost of living, and a weaker dollar. We need real change so that you can put food on the table, find housing, and live in safe neighborhoods with a new Conservative government. Bloomberg reports that Carney has abandoned Justin Trudeau's budgetary directions, meaning he will spend more than Trudeau. There will be a deterioration in the budget situation if the Liberals are elected again. Even a Liberal economist tweeted that Mark Carney's plan is rife with spending and even higher deficits than those of Freeland. He added that he hoped that Mark Carney would bring the Liberals back to the centre by emphasizing on budgetary discipline, but that's not the case. It's an elegant way of saying that Mr. Carney is going to be even more expensive than Mr. Trudeau. It's a scandalous plan. But it's no surprise. And because he is faithful to Mark Carney's record wherever he goes, he advises people to print money and to drive debt up and inflation on the backs of workers. In 2020, Mr. Carney was asked if he was concerned about the rise in inflation, and he said, "It's no problem, there will not be any." Later, we did see inflation. 6 months later, he said, "No big deal. Inflation is, in fact, a good thing. And it's signs of an economy that is growing." As governor of the Bank of England, he missed his 2% inflation objective 5 out of 8 years. He was criticized for leaving the UK with the highest inflation in the G7, and it hit 11%. That's Mark Carney's true record. It's no surprise that the British press have said that Mark Carney has the reverse Midas touch. Today, he is promising hundreds of billions of extra dollars in spending, inflationary deficits, just as he advised Justin Trudeau, but worse. The deficits are already projected by Justin Trudeau, plus the new spending that Mr. Carney promised today. This adds up to $250 billion of additional debt for a fourth Liberal term. To finance all of that, we will have to print more money. That means more inflation, higher costs of housing, foodstuffs, and a rise in fuel costs. We need a new Conservative government that will bring spending under control by eliminating useless subsidies to consultants, foreign aid, and aid to large companies.
Of our platform, including with costing on it, and the final document will soon be available, and it will cut your income tax by 15%. Take the sales tax off new homes. Unleash the resource sector to generate $70 billion of additional revenue for the government through economic growth. Cut back on bureaucracy, consultants, handouts to corporate insiders, and foreign aid to bring down the Liberal deficit, and pay for our programs with real money. We will bring down inflation, deficits, taxes, and spending, contrary to what you've seen from this latest Liberal spending bonanza that we cannot afford for a fourth term. We need a change, and that's what this election is about, a change. A change you can afford food and homes, a change that you're safe on your street, a change to put Canada first. And we need a change also to make our people safe again. Because after the lost Liberal decade, there have been 50,000 people who've lost their lives to drug addiction. And that's what brings me here today. Liberal drug policies have inflicted immense suffering on our communities. Not only the people who are addicted to the drugs Liberals have paid to spread around our streets, but we also have the communities that are shattered by the resulting crime. Richmond has been particularly hard hit, and I'm very thankful to the Chinese community in Richmond for being the leading voice against these radical drug liberalization policies of the last decade. They understand we cannot risk a fourth Liberal term of crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. We need a change to stop the crime and drugs with a new Conservative government. Today, I'm very happy to have with me some inspiring Canadians, Chris Esnard and Aidan Gills. Chris had a high-profile job that he was about to lose due to his addiction. His wife finally had to lock him out of the house and said she could never come back unless he got treated. At first, he had no desire to get sober. He went in because he was forced by his wife. And it took him about 30 days to turn his attitude around. He bought into the idea that he should try, and that it meant more to him to have his family than to have his drugs. He is now clean for 5 years. Thank you very much. Amazing. And then there's Aidan. Aidan was addicted to what are called safe supply drugs. These are drugs that were actually given out by the government. And the government has this policy of paying for opioids, which is a great way to make profit for the same pharmaceutical companies who caused the drug crisis, and then handing them out. Now, the thinking is that because they're government-funded drugs, they won't be contaminated and addictive and lethal. Well, these drugs ended up in the hands of a vulnerable young man, Aidan. He got addicted, and he was on them for 3 years. You imagine the government actually getting people addicted to drugs. It's astonishing that this is happening in our communities. Taxpayer-funded drugs were supposed to be saving lives, but in fact, they almost took Aidan's life. But now Aidan, after going into treatment, was able to turn his life around and become drug-free. And he's rebuilding his life and inspiring others to do the same. Thank you very much, Aidan, for sharing your incredible story with us. Incredible. You know, I think of both of you as having a superpower. You know, some people might think if you've been an addict in the past that you have a weakness. I think it's a superpower, because if you can overcome that, you can overcome anything. When you encounter challenges or face tough people, you know they'll never have been, in their past, have been able to fight and win against such a challenge like that before. And now we need something from you. We need you to go out onto the street and grab the next guy who's stuck on the ground, pick him up, and bring him into treatment so that they can get better, and then they can go out onto the street and grab someone else by the hand and pick them up and continue that circle until we save all of our family members. It's an honor to have these men behind me. Canada used to be a place where hard work, where people, if you followed the rules and worked hard and looked out for your neighbors, you could build a good life on a safe street. A country where seniors could take transit without fear and parents let their kids play street hockey without worry of stepping on a dirty needle or stumbling into a crack pipe. You know, in Abbotsford and other communities in the Lower Mainland, parents are actually having to go to the soccer pitch before the games and form a line and walk up and down the entire field to check for needles and crack pipes. There are some communities in the Lower Mainland where it's not safe to take your dog for a walk because they might ingest drugs and residues that have been left behind in the park and actually poison the dog. That is how absolutely out of control this problem is. Families are torn apart by illegal drugs, and the most vulnerable Canadians, those struggling with addiction, are being given free drugs, abandoned to die on our streets, and Liberals like Mark Carney call it compassion. He doesn't think it's a crisis. He says that that crisis only exists in the States. Well, no, it exists here. There's nothing compassionate about giving taxpayer-funded hard drugs that ultimately get resold to buy fentanyl, heroin, crack, and worse. There's nothing compassionate about handing out dangerous drugs and walking away while people who do not have the ability to say no to poison overdose and die. We've lost 50,000 people, more than died fighting for us in the Second World War. More than we could ever have imagined. Les rues ne sont plus sécuritaires,
the streets are no longer safe.
Les familles sont détruites.
Families are being destroyed by illegal drugs. And the most vulnerable Canadians, those who suffer from addictions, are being offered free drugs and are left in the streets to die. That is not compassion. Let's be clear. There is nothing compassionate about giving heroin, crack, fentanyl, and to finance that with taxpayer money. There is nothing compassionate about legalizing dangerous drugs. We have lost 50,000 people. We cannot lose anymore. Therefore, we need to give treatment to save the lives of 50,000 Canadians, and that is what we will do.
We know that sometimes it's very hard to get people into treatment and recovery, and we are going to do it anyway. We're going to treat 50,000 people who are struggling with addiction, getting them off drugs, making them drug-free so that they can restart their lives like Chris and Aidan did. Liberals continue to push ahead with radical policies, though. Make no mistake, a fourth Liberal term will go even further. Mark Carney recruited a hardcore radical who was too radical to even be in the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau, Gregor Robertson. And he said the impact of drug injection site on crime rates and expressions of community support or opposition should not be relevant to the federal government's approval process. So what he said, this is the former mayor of Vancouver, is even if drug injection sites are going to lead to more crime, and even if they face public opposition, they should go ahead anyway. That is absolutely insane. And the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. He said also that Liberals would be smart to lean into drug decriminalization. He also wants to defund and disarm the police. It's clear that if Liberals are re-elected to a fourth term, things will get worse. Mr. Carney's hand-picked star candidates are even more radical than Trudeau. But the good news is help is on the way. We will give judges the power, we will take action, and we will save lives. So we will act with compassion. Today, I am announcing the Conservatives will bring change. We will give judges the power to order mandatory treatment for those suffering from addiction that has spun out of their control. Possession of illegal drugs will remain a crime, but we would allow judges to order treatment as an alternative to prison when the offender's only crimes involve small quantities of drugs for their own use or other minor non-violent offenses. When someone is too sick to choose help, we won't leave them without hope. We'll help them take back control of their lives. For more serious offenders, we'll ensure that they will go to prison, of course, but there will be treatment in prison, and it will be an option for judges to require that the prisoner undergo drug treatment behind bars as a condition of ever getting released. This policy is not about punishment, it's about redemption. It's about getting people off the streets and out of addiction, back into a society where they can live rich, fulfilling lives and take full advantage of the Canadian promise. A new Conservative government
will do what the Liberals are refusing to do and act with compassion. We will give judges the power to order mandatory treatment for those suffering from addiction. Illegal drug possession will remain a crime, but we will authorize judges to order treatment as an alternative to jail time when the only crime of that offender is small quantities of drugs for their personal use and other minor non-violent crimes. When someone is too sick to choose help, we will not leave them without hope. We will help them to take back control of their life. More serious offenders will, of course, go to jail. But once in prison, judges will be able to order drug treatment as well and make that a condition of potential release, that they complete that treatment and pass drug screening tests. It's about getting people off the streets, out of addictions, and reintegrate them into society where they will be able to live a rich and fulfilling life and fully take advantage of the Canadian promise.
To be clear, drug possession will still be a criminal offense. What we are proposing, though, is to give more sentencing options to judges so that they can put people in mandatory treatment. Now, some might look at me and say, you know, for a long time, Mr. Poilievre, you've talked about the need for more freedom, letting people make their own decisions. And I do believe in that. We need more freedom. And if I were creating a new political party, it would be the mind your own business party. Let people decide for themselves. But there are some people who've lost the capacity. When you are hopelessly addicted to fentanyl, it is 100 times more powerful an addictive substance than is heroin. There's literally no free will left. It is impossible to make that decision on yourself in these moments. And that is why it is appropriate for the law to come in and take that person, put them in a treatment program, and let them have the hope that Chris and Aiden and so many recovering addicts now share with the rest of the world. We will also pay for 50,000 treatment spots, and we will do it by defunding the supply of powerful opioids, cutting back on bureaucracy, activists, and those who continue to perpetuate the problem, and instead putting the money into treatment facilities. We will close drug dens. We will shut down the treatment centers. We'll shut down the drug dens and replace them with treatment centers. The drug dens that have been tried to be pushed on Richmond, that won't happen anymore. There will be no government-funded drug use sites under a Conservative government. We will ensure that the money goes to treatment, and no longer will communities have to go get up in arms to fight back against having drug use centers in their communities. We will shut down those centers. We'll ban taxpayer-funded hard drugs and redirect those funds to real treatment, detox, rehabilitation, and recovery houses. We will impose life sentences on fentanyl traffickers and the criminal gangs flooding our communities with poison. If you profit off the suffering of others, a Conservative government will make sure you pay the highest price. And we will go further. We'll strengthen our borders to keep illegal drugs and guns out. And we will bring forward a choice for Canadians in the next election. It was a very simple choice. After the lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, can you afford a fourth Liberal term? With the same Liberal team, same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal ministry, the same overdoses, crime, tent cities, and out-of-control cost of living. No, you can't afford it. You cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a change with a new Conservative government that will cut taxes, cap spending, ban drugs, treat addiction, and bring home the Canadian promise. We need change so you can afford a home, change so you can afford food, change that you're safe on your streets. My message to anyone out there who's suffering from addiction is this: look to the stories of Chris and Aiden. They prove that you can turn your life around and do right by your family and your community, and then you can be an inspiration to all people. So hang on, have hope. Help is on the way. You can vote for change. You can vote for hope. Today, tomorrow, and Monday during advance poll weekend, vote early, vote for a change, vote for hope, vote Conservative. Thank you very much.